I heard the silence call my name. Beneath the tide of falling stars, the world kept turning without me. But you waited in the dark. Every heartbeat fades away. Every prayer becomes a ghost. If tomorrow disappears, then let me disappear with you. We are the fire beneath the night, the last two souls the heavens denied. If death is all that's left to claim, then let the darkness know my name. I'll cross forever, I'll break eternity. Until the end, you belong with me. Kingdoms fall like autumn rain. Ashes bloom beneath our feet. Every wound became a promise. Every scar became a key. We are the end they couldn't see. The silence after destiny. Let heaven burn, let oceans bleed. I choose the night, and the night chose me. I choose the night, not the night chose me.
She made a list. It was the most functional thing she knew how to do with a problem that exceeded her existing frameworks. She had always been a list maker, not in the domestic, cheerful, color-coded sense, in the sense of someone who understood that the mind was a poor vessel for uncategorized information, and that the page was better. This list took 3 pages. The first page was titled, "What I Understand About the Binding," dense with notes. The mechanics as Azrael had explained them, the historical precedents she'd researched, the questions she still had, marked with asterisks because gaps were not ignorance, they were targets. The second page was titled, "What I Am Afraid of." She had forced herself to be honest about it. She was afraid of the ritual itself, the pain of it, the unknown of it, the surrender required by any act of genuine intimacy, and how poorly equipped she was for that historically. She was afraid of becoming unrecognizable to herself. She was afraid of losing Gemma, not to death, but to the widening distance between what Noelle's life was becoming and what Gemma's would remain. She was afraid, and she wrote this one in smaller letters, as if size could reduce it, that the binding would work, and she would spend eternity tethered to something and still manage to be alone in it. The third page was titled, What I Want, and had, beneath the heading, only the word she'd written on Wednesday night. Alive. She stared at the third page every morning while the kettle boiled. She stared at it and felt the cold in her chest do its new thing, the warm, cold cord, deepening by degrees, pulling in a direction that had a name now, and a face, and void eyes with cold stars in their depths. By Friday, she understood that her body had already answered the question. Her mind was simply working up the nerve to agree. The hunger started on Thursday. She recognized it for what it was approximately 40 minutes after it began, which she considered a reasonable diagnostic time, given that she had no prior reference point for the specific sensation of craving the presence of a death entity. It was not like ordinary hunger, not the hollow pull of an empty stomach, not the targeted wanting of a particular food. It was a whole-body orientation, like a compass needle that had found north, and was now constitutionally incapable of pointing elsewhere. She became aware of it during a routine intake processing for a man named Calloway, and the cold in her chest had deepened toward something pulling outward, like a tide moving away from shore, toward the shadow realm, toward the signal on the other side of the membrane, toward him. She set down her pen, pressed her fingers to her sternum, and breathed through it, slow, deliberate, longer out than in. It didn't go away. It settled the way the fury had settled in the square, into something she could carry, something with handles. But it was there. It was unambiguously there.
It's not unpleasant, that's the first thing. It's not the cold that was damage of the early weeks. This is different in quality, directional rather than ambient. The difference between a weather system and a wind. It wants something specific. He wants something specific.
She thought, that's not supposed to be able to happen yet. She thought, we haven't done the ritual.
I am in significantly more trouble than I calculated.
She went back to work. Gemma noticed on Friday. In retrospect, Noelle was mildly surprised it had taken that long. Gemma noticed things with the consistency of a diagnostic instrument. The only reason she hadn't noticed sooner was that Noelle had been at home for most of the preceding week, and Gemma's noticing required proximity. By midnight, Gemma had accumulated enough data points for a preliminary conclusion and was circling toward it with the directional intent of something that had made up its mind. Noelle was in the file room when Gemma found her.
You're different.
I'm always different on Fridays. Everyone is.
Different from yourself, specifically. You've been elsewhere.
I've been at home, mostly.
Not physically, Noelle. Elsewhere. You look better, which is confusing. You looked terrible last week, and now you look different better. Lit from the inside, kind of. And your hair. The silver. Noelle, that's not normal shadow sickness progression. I looked it up. Hair changes in shadow sickness patients are pigment loss, patchy, gray. Not that.
Bodies are individual.
You're being evasive, which means something is happening, which means I need you to tell me what it is. We agreed you would tell me things.
Noelle filed the last form in her hand, put down the folder, turned to look at Gemma properly.
Something has happened, yes.
Is it medical? Has the progression…
No, not in the way you mean. I need you to do something for me that's going to be very difficult.
Tell me.
I need you to listen to what I'm about to say without reaching for an alternative explanation, without trying to fit it into a framework that makes it manageable. I need you to just receive it and let it sit and trust that I'm not delusional or in crisis or constructing something because I'm desperate.
Okay. I'm listening.
Noelle told her. Not everything. Not yet. Enough. The crossing, the shadow realm, the figure she'd been seeing for weeks, the conversation in her kitchen, 2 voices across a kitchen table, the mechanics laid out plainly. The offer. She told it in the same way she wrote things down, without ornamentation, without the poetry that would make it easier to dismiss. She told it as a set of facts, because facts were harder to argue with than feelings. And she knew Gemma, and she knew that the feeling version of this story would be received as a symptom, and the fact version had a chance of being received as a story. Gemma listened. She did not interrupt, which was itself a remarkable act of discipline. When Noelle finished, the file room held a silence that was different from its usual silence.
The shadow realm. You crossed into it and came back.
Yes,
And the figure, the entity.
yes.
The one that took Marina Voss.
Yes.
Is he going to hurt you?
Noelle blinked. Of all the responses she'd prepared for, skepticism, the gentle suggestion of psychological evaluation, a practical inquiry into whether any of this was medically documented, she had not prepared for that one.
No, not intentionally. The binding itself will be difficult, but not,
Difficult.
yes.
And without it?
Without it, I follow the standard progression, which you've already researched.
Do you trust him?
Not completely, not yet. There's a great deal I don't know about him, about what he is and what he wants, and what the binding will make of both of us. But I trust that the thing he offered is real, that the mechanics of it are as he described them, and I trust that whatever he is not performing. When he said he wanted the binding, that wasn't strategy.
How do you know?
Because I've been working with the dead for 6 years. I know what it looks like when something is pretending to feel what it's supposed to feel. And I know what it looks like when something actually does. And he actually does.
I hate this. I hate all of this. I hate that you're sick, and I hate that this is what help looks like, and I hate that I can't check his references.
He's been around for millennia. The references would be difficult to track down.
I'm going to need to meet him.
I don't know if...
I'm not negotiating on this. If you're going to do this, I'm going to look at him and decide for myself. I don't care what he is. I can read people.
He's not technically a person.
I can read whatever he is. When are you going to tell him yes?
I haven't decided.
Noelle, you've decided. You decided before you told me. I can see it. It's in the lit from the inside thing you've had going on all week. I know what it looks like when you've made up your mind. You get very calm. You're very calm right now.
I'm considering it.
You've decided. It's okay. I'm not telling you not to. I'm terrified, and I don't understand half of what you've just told me, and I think the universe is profoundly unjust for making this the situation. But I can see that you want to be alive, and I cannot argue with that. I will never argue with that.
Thank you.
Don't thank me. Bring him to the kitchen table and let me look at him. Finish the filing. We have an intake at 2.
He came that night at midnight, as he had every night. She was waiting at the kitchen table, but differently than before. Not with the mug and the careful composure and the list of questions. She was sitting with her hands loose in her lap, the notebook closed, the overhead light off. Only the small lamp on the counter lit. She'd been finding lately that full overhead light felt excessive, that her eyes preferred the lower register. She was trying to decide how much to read into that, and had not yet come to a conclusion. He coalesced in the corner, and she turned to look at him. He was different tonight, too. More present than he'd been at any point yet, more solid, more committed. As if he had made some corresponding internal decision about how much of himself to bring across. He looked at her, and went still. She stood up. She'd thought about this, about what she wanted from tonight's conversation and how she wanted to begin it. But standing now, with him there, with the low light and the familiar cold, and the hunger that had been building for 2 days pressing its directional weight against her sternum, she thought about something else. She crossed the kitchen. He watched her come toward him without moving, without retreating, the void eyes tracking her with an attention that was not wary. The shadows at his edges stilled completely as she closed the distance, the way they'd stilled when she'd crossed the shadow realm toward him. And she noted this, the stillness as a tell, the shadows giving away what his face held in reserve. She stopped at 2 feet, close, closer than she'd let herself be at the table, where the furniture had managed the distance. Close enough to feel the cold of him as a specific pressure, as a thing with a source and an edge, not ambient, intentional. Him, radiating outward, pressing against her skin everywhere the short distance between them allowed. She felt it on her throat, her forearms, the backs of her hands. She felt it, for the first time, as something she was leaning into, rather than enduring.
I've been feeling the bond, the hunger, for the last 2 days.
Yes,
You feel it too.
yes,
Is that normal? Before the ritual?
no. It should not be possible. The bond has not been initiated. The ritual creates it. It should not be forming without the ritual.
But it is.
Yes,
Because
because you are already partly what the bond would make you. The bond recognizes this.
I have more questions. I'll always have more questions. That's not going to change.
I know.
And there are things you're not telling me. About the hollow court, about the politics of whatever I'd be walking into. About what the binding makes you not just me.
Yes. There are things that require more time.
I want them, eventually.
Yes.
I'm going to say yes. Not tonight. Tonight I'm telling you that the answer when I give it is going to be yes. So that you have. So you have time to prepare. To know what's coming. Because I think you'd want that. And because I want you to have it.
The silence that followed was not the pausing to decide silence. It was something else. Something that passed through the cold between them like a change of current. Something she felt in the signal in her chest as a deepening. A settling. The chord finding its full voicing.
Noelle,
Don't thank me. I don't want thanks.
I wasn't. No. I wasn't going to.
What were you going to say?
That I will not waste it, what you've given me, Noelle.
She should have stepped back. She knew it, felt the practical wisdom of it, the management of the distance between them as a discipline that served her. The ritual was not tonight. The yes was not tonight. The hunger in her chest was a preview of something she hadn't yet consented to fully. She raised her right hand, not reaching for him, not the way she'd reached in the shadow realm, palm up, open, just raising it, lifting it between them at the level of his chest, where the shadows moved. Close enough to feel the cold intensify around her fingers, close enough to watch the shadows at the edges of his sternum slow and settle, as they had before. Drawn toward the warmth of her proximity the way a compass found north. She didn't touch him. He didn't touch her. But they stayed like that, her hand raised between them, his gaze on it, both of them in the field of each other's specific climate, the cold and the warmth, and the space between them full of something that was not yet a decision, but was very close to one. The signal in her chest burned warm. She lowered her hand.
A few more days. I want to know something about what to expect. And my best friend wants to look at you.
Your best friend?
She's going to ask you things, and she's going to read whatever you are and make up her own mind. I'd appreciate it if you If you let her.
As you wish.
Tomorrow night?
Yes, tomorrow.
He dissolved, as he always did, with the gentleness of something that had learned to be careful with the living world. She stood in the dim kitchen and listened to the harbor for a long time, one hand pressed flat against her sternum, feeling her heartbeat and the warm cold note. Both. The page in her notebook said, alive. She was going to stay that way. 3 days. 3 more days of questions and presence and the hunger I'm learning to breathe through. 3 days, and then I'll say the word.